Elderly man with Alzheimer's didn't respond until the nurse entered and he called her his daughter. Walter Thompson had been staying at Riverside Care Home in Cleveland for 3 months, showing no reaction to medical care. Specialists said his Alzheimer's had progressed so far that he lived in his own world, disconnected from reality. That was when Emily Wilson started working there, and something inexplicable happened. The moment she entered the room to check the 78-year-old man's vitals, he grabbed her hand with a strength no one thought he still had. "My daughter, you came back," he whispered, his eyes suddenly shining in a way they hadn't for months. Emily froze. She had been a nurse for 5 years and knew Alzheimer's patients often confused people, but something about this moment was different. The way he looked at her, as if he truly knew her. "Mr. Thompson, I'm Emily, your new nurse," she explained gently, trying to free her hand. But he wouldn't let go. His trembling fingers held hers as if she were the most precious thing in the world. "You have the same eyes as your mother, Dorothy," he said, and a chill ran down Emily's spine. Dorothy was the name of the mother she had never known. Dr. Richard Miller, the director of Riverside Care Home, appeared in the doorway, watching the scene with interest. "It's normal, Emily. Advanced stage patients often project important people onto those who care for them," the doctor explained. "Walter talks about a daughter he lost many years ago. Don't let it get to you." But Emily couldn't shake the moment from her mind. All afternoon, as she tended to other patients, she thought about Mr. Thompson's gaze. There was something there that went beyond the confusion caused by the disease. At the end of her shift, she returned to his room. Walter was asleep, but she still approached the bed. On the nightstand, she noticed an old photo of a little girl playing in a park. "That's my Emily," a weak voice said. Emily turned and saw he had woken up. "She disappeared when she was just 2. Walter continued, his eyes filled with tears. "Someone took her from me. I searched my whole life. My whole life." Emily's heart raced. She had been adopted as a baby and never knew details about her biological family. "What was she like, Mr. Thompson?" "Tiny, clever. She had a birthmark here," he said, touching his right shoulder. Emily nearly gasped. She had the exact same mark in the same place. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. In the following days, Emily couldn't focus on anything else. During every shift, she spent more time than she should in Walter's room, listening to his fragmented stories about his lost daughter. "Dorothy, my wife, left when our girl was very little," he recounted in moments of clarity. "She said she couldn't take it anymore, that it was too much for her. It was just me and Emily after that." And what happened next? "A woman appeared, said she was a social worker, told me I couldn't raise a child alone, that the girl needed a stable family." Emily's stomach twisted with each revelation. "I fought them, but I was poor, working as a night security guard. The woman had papers, said it was best for Emily." "Do you remember her name?" Walter's eyes grew distant, as if trying to grasp a memory buried deep in his failing mind. "Evelyn? Her name was Evelyn Johnson." Emily felt the ground drop beneath her. Evelyn Johnson was her adoptive mother's maiden name. That night she called Margaret Johnson, the woman who had raised her since she was a baby. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." "What is it, dear? You sound strange." "It's about my adoption. Did you work as a social worker before adopting me?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Why are you asking this now, Emily?" "Please, Mom, it's important. I did help some children find better homes, yes, but that was a long time ago." "Do you remember a girl named Emily, daughter of a man named Walter Thompson?" The silence that followed was deafening. "Where did you hear that name, Emily?" "He's a patient where I work. He has Alzheimer's, but when he saw me, he called me his daughter. Sweetheart, sick people, how they imagine things. You can't take it seriously." But Margaret's tone had changed. She sounded nervous, defensive. "Mom, I need to know the truth. The truth is, you've been my daughter since you were little. That's what matters." Margaret hung up the phone, leaving Emily even more puzzled. The next day, she sought out Nancy Roberts, a longtime employee at Riverside Care Home who was off duty. "Nancy, do you know much about Mr. Thompson's story?" "Oh, poor man. It's a very sad case. He arrived here 2 years ago, brought in by a distant niece. Had no one else in the family. Do you know anything about the daughter he lost?" Nancy looked around to make sure no one was listening. "He talked about it a lot in the beginning, before his illness got worse. Said his daughter had been taken from him unfairly, that he'd spent his whole life looking for her. Did he ever hire investigators? According to him, yes. Spent everything he had trying to find her. Worked day and night to pay detectives, lawyers, until the money ran out." Emily's chest tightened. The story matched the fragments Walter had shared. "Nancy, do you know where I can find his old records?" "Well, try talking to Mrs. Ruth. She worked at the courthouse for 40 years. If anyone can help you, it's her." Ruth Williams lived in a modest house in downtown Cleveland. At 72, she still had a sharp mind and an impressive memory. "Walter Thompson, that name rings a bell," she said, scratching her chin. "You said he lost a daughter?" "Yes, a girl named Emily, 2 years old." Ruth's eyes widened. "Dear, I remember that case. It was in the 1980s, caused quite a stir. The man showed up at the courthouse every week looking for adoption records. Do you remember any more details?" "He claimed his daughter had been taken from him illegally. There was a social worker involved. What was her name again?" Ruth closed her eyes, concentrating. "Evelyn. Evelyn something. She arranged adoptions for families who couldn't have children through legal means." Emily's heart raced. "Illegal how?" "She forged documents, claimed the birth parents had abandoned the kids or couldn't provide for them. It was a well-organized scheme." "What happened to that woman?" "She vanished. When authorities started investigating, she disappeared, left some families in the lurch and several children without proper paperwork." Emily felt she was getting closer to the truth, but there were still too many missing pieces. That night, she went home determined to confront Margaret. She found her adoptive mother in the kitchen, making dinner with the automatic movements of someone who'd done it for decades. "Mom, I need you to tell me the truth about my adoption." Margaret stopped stirring the pot and turned slowly. "Emily, why are you digging into this? What's the problem?" "The problem is I found my birth father, and he's dying of grief because he lost his daughter. Your birth father abandoned you. I saved you from a miserable life." "That's not what happened, was it, Mom?" Margaret Johnson sank heavily into the kitchen chair. Her shoulders trembled as if she'd been carrying an immense weight for years. I wanted a child so badly, Emily. Your father and I tried for years, did every treatment possible. Nothing worked. And then you met this Evelyn. She came to me when she heard about our situation, said she knew a child who needed a good family. And you didn't question anything? She showed me papers, said the father had mental problems, drank too much, that the mother had run away. I believed because I wanted to believe. Tears began streaming down Margaret's face. I didn't know he was looking for you, dear. Evelyn said he'd signed the voluntary surrender papers. Where are those papers? I thought they were lost in the house fire, remember? When you were 10. Emily vaguely recalled the fire, but now suspected it hadn't been accidental. Mom, did you destroy the documents? Margaret stayed silent for a long time. I was afraid you'd find out and leave me. You were all I had in life. And my biological father never knew what happened to me all these years. I didn't know, Emily. I swear I didn't know he was suffering. Emily hugged Margaret, feeling the complexity of the situation. Her adoptive mother had made mistakes, but had also loved and cared for her devotedly. I need to take care of him now, Mom. He's sick and alone. I understand, dear, I understand. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. In the following days, Emily intensified her care for Walter. She brought photos from her childhood and teenage years, shared stories about her life, her studies to become a nurse. I always knew you'd come back, he'd say during his lucid moments. A mother told me in a dream that you were safe, that you'd find me when I needed you most. A mother. Your mother, Dorothy. She appeared in my dreams asking forgiveness for leaving. Emily learned Dorothy had died in an accident a few years after leaving the family, but Walter never knew. I never held anger toward her, he said. She was so young when you were born, scared of the responsibility. But she always said you were the most beautiful thing in the world. Dr. Richard Miller began noticing changes in Walter and grew intrigued. Emily, what are you doing with this patient? He's having moments of clarity we haven't seen in months. I just talked to him about the past. Keep it up. Emotional stimulation can help, even in advanced cases. But not everything was peaceful. Deborah Miller, Walter's niece, showed up at Riverside Care Home visibly upset. "Who are you and why are you meddling in my uncle's life?" she demanded, glaring at Emily. "I'm just a nurse caring for him." "I heard you've been claiming to be his daughter. That's ridiculous. He has no children. How can you be so sure?" "Because I've handled his affairs for years. If he had a daughter, I'd know." Dr. Miller stepped in. "Let's all calm down. The patient's well-being is what matters." But Deborah didn't back down. "I want this woman away from my uncle. She's taking advantage of his condition." "For what?" Emily asked. "What would I gain?" "His money, the pension, whatever assets are left." Emily realized there was more behind Deborah's anger. "What assets, Deborah? I thought he'd spent everything searching for his daughter." The woman flushed. That's none of your business." That night, Emily Wilson made a few calls and discovered some interesting things about Deborah. She had taken over as Walter Thompson's guardian when his illness began and had been managing a small inheritance he received from a deceased brother. Nancy Roberts confirmed her suspicions. That woman showed up out of nowhere 2 years ago, claiming to be his niece. Walter was confused, couldn't remember his family clearly. She brought paperwork and took responsibility. "Do you think she's really related to him?" "I don't know. But I do know she comes here once a month to sign papers and authorize expenses. She always seemed more interested in the financial side than his well-being." Emily decided to dig deeper. She reached out to Edward Taylor, a retired private investigator who had worked on missing persons cases. "Walter Thompson. That name rings a bell," Edward said, flipping through some old files. "Here it is. He came to me in the 1990s, wanted to find his daughter." "What did you find back then?" "Not much. The adoption records were sealed. We couldn't access them. But I did find some irregularities in the documents submitted at the time." "What kind of irregularities?" "Forged signatures, tampered stamps. It was a well-organized scheme." "Did you ever look into that social worker, Evelyn Johnson?" "I tried, but she'd vanished, quit her job and moved away. Later, I found out she used multiple fake names." Edward pulled out another file. "But there's something interesting here. I found records showing she facilitated at least a dozen illegal adoptions. Some of the families involved might still be alive. Do you have contact with any of them?" "I have the address of a woman whose son was also taken through Evelyn's scheme. Her name's Marlene Peterson, lives in Lakewood." Emily thanked him and drove to Lakewood the following weekend. Marlene, a 65-year-old woman, greeted her with suspicion until she mentioned Evelyn Johnson's name. "That wretched woman," Marlene exclaimed. "Because of her, I lost my son and never found him again." "What happened?" "My husband had passed. I was depressed, struggling financially. Evelyn showed up saying she knew a good family who'd take care of my boy temporarily until I got back on my feet. But it wasn't temporary. When I went back for him, she said I'd signed papers for permanent surrender, showed me documents I'd never seen in my life, with a signature that didn't even look like mine." Marlene began to cry. "I spent years in court, wasted everything I had on lawyers, never saw my Julian again." "Did you try to find the family who adopted him?" "Of course, but the records had been altered. To this day, I don't know where my son is." Emily felt a deep connection to Marlene's pain. 2 mothers, 2 children separated by the same criminal scheme. "Marlene, I think I've found my birth father. He was also one of Evelyn's victims." "Really? How did you manage that?" "Pure coincidence. I'm caring for him at Riverside Care Home. He has Alzheimer's, but he recognized me." "You're so lucky. I'd give anything for that chance." An idea formed in Emily's mind. What if we tried together to find your son? Maybe with the information we have now. Marlene's eyes lit up for the first time in their conversation. You'd do that for me? Of course, no one should go through what you and my father did. They agreed to meet again the following week to make a plan. When Emily returned to Cleveland, she found Walter more agitated than usual. She was here, he said as soon as he saw her. Who was here? The bad woman, the one who took you from me. Emily's heart raced. Are you talking about Evelyn? Yes, but she looked different, older. She told me I had to stop talking about you. When did this happen? This morning. She came with that woman who claims to be my niece. Emily Wilson went to Nancy Roberts to confirm the information. Yes, an elderly lady came with Deborah. They talked to Mr. Walter Thompson for about 20 minutes. He got very nervous after they left. Did you hear what they talked about? No, but they closed the door, which is strange because we always keep doors open here to monitor the patients. Emily was starting to understand that there were forces trying to keep the truth from coming out. That night, she received an anonymous call. Stop meddling in things that aren't your business, said a woman's voice. You could get hurt. Who is this? Someone who knows the whole story. Your adoptive father could have problems if you keep digging. What kind of problems? Margaret was more involved in the scheme than she told you. If this comes out, she could go to jail. The call ended, leaving Emily in a panic. She immediately called Margaret. Mum, are you okay? I'm fine, dear. Why? Someone called me making threats about you. There was a tense silence. What kind of threats? About your involvement in Evelyn's scheme. Mum, you didn't tell me everything, did you? Emily, you should drop this. What do you mean? This story could cause trouble for a lot of people. Important people were involved. What important people? I can't say, dear. Please be satisfied with what you found and let the past stay buried. But Emily couldn't give up. Walter was there alone and sick, and she was all he had in the world. The next morning, when she arrived at Riverside Care Home, she found Dr. Richard Miller waiting for her in the parking lot. Emily, I need to talk to you. What happened? We received an anonymous complaint saying you're pretending to be a patient's relative for financial gain. That's ridiculous. Who made this complaint? I can't reveal that, but I need you to stay away from Mr. Thompson until we clarify the situation. Doctor, you know me. I would never do something like that. I know, Emily, but I have to follow protocol. It's temporary. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Emily felt her world crumbling. Not seeing Walter would be terrible for both of them, especially for him, who had shown so much improvement. She decided to seek legal help. The lawyer Robert Davis listened carefully to her story. Emily, do you have any proof that you're really his daughter? Only his memories and a few details that match my life. That's not enough for a legal case. You'd need a DNA test. How can I do that if I don't have access to him? It's complicated. Whoever has guardianship can authorize or deny the test. And is this guardianship legal? I'll look into it. Give me all the information you have about Deborah Miller. A few days later, Robert came to her with interesting news. Emily, there are issues with Deborah's guardianship paperwork. The documents proving her relation to Walter are questionable. In what way? The birth certificates were issued recently, supposedly replacing lost ones. Very convenient. So she might not actually be related to him. It's possible, and there's more. I found out she has a history of getting close to elderly people with no family to gain financially. Is this a scam? It looks that way. She's been investigated in other cities for similar situations. Emily felt a mix of anger and hope. If Deborah wasn't Walter's real relative, maybe she could regain access to him. What can we do? I'm filing a petition to contest the guardianship. If we can prove fraud, you can request recognition as his daughter and take over his care. Meanwhile, Emily Wilson continued helping Marlene Peterson in her search for her son. They discovered that Julian Peterson had been adopted by a family in Chicago and was now a veterinarian. "Oh my God, my son became a doctor!" exclaimed Marlene, her eyes filled with tears. "Would you like me to try contacting him?" "You'd do that?" "Of course, everyone deserves to know the truth about their origins." Emily called the veterinary clinic where Julian worked and managed to speak with him. "Dr. Julian, my name is Emily Wilson. I'd like to talk to you about your adoption." "My adoption? Why?" "I believe I've found your birth mother." There was a long silence. "Where are you?" "In Cleveland. Would you like to meet us?" Yes. I've always wanted to know about my biological family." The meeting between Marlene and Julian was emotional. After the initial awkwardness, mother and son embraced and cried together. "I never gave up looking for you," said Marlene. "And I always felt something was missing in my life," Julian replied. Their reunion gave Emily even more strength to fight for Walter Thompson. A few weeks later, Robert Davis obtained an injunction challenging Deborah Miller's guardianship. "The judge authorized a DNA test," he announced. "You'll be able to see Walter again." Emily nearly fainted from joy. When she entered Walter's room after almost a month apart, she found him visibly weakened. "My daughter, I knew you'd come back," he whispered weakly. "I'll never leave you again, Dad." It was the first time she'd called him Dad, and Walter smiled as he hadn't in years. The DNA results confirmed what both their hearts already knew. Emily was truly Walter Thompson's daughter. The news spread through Riverside Care Home, moving staff and other patients. Dr. Richard Miller admitted he'd never seen such an extraordinary case. "It's as if love conquered illness," he remarked. Deborah Miller tried to dispute the results, but Robert discovered she wasn't even a distant relative of Walter. She had forged all the documentation to get close to him. "She was part of a scheme to take advantage of vulnerable seniors," the lawyer explained. "Walter was just one of their victims." With guardianship transferred to Emily, she could finally care for her father, as should have always been. Margaret Johnson, though shaken by the past revelations, supported her daughter's decision. "You need to care for him now," she said. "It's your duty and your right." Emily rearranged her life to spend more time with Walter. She brought photo albums from her childhood and teenage years, sharing stories about her studies, boyfriends, and dreams. "I always knew you'd become someone special," he said during his lucid moments. "Even as a little girl, you were different. You had a light in your eyes." "You remember me as a little girl?" "I remember everything, my daughter. Your first smile, your first word. You said Daddy before anything else." These memories were precious gifts Emily treasured in her heart. Marlene and Julian became close friends with Emily, bonded by their family reunions. Together, they formed a support group to help others separated by irregular adoptions. How many families must have been torn apart by this scheme? Marlene wondered. "Too many," Emily replied. "But now we can help others reconnect." The investigation into Evelyn Johnson revealed a network of illegal adoptions that had operated for decades. She had passed away years earlier, but left behind a trail of broken families. Walter, in his moments of greatest clarity, expressed deep gratitude. "Thank you for finding me, my daughter. Now I can go in peace knowing you're well." "Don't talk about leaving, Dad. We still have so much time together. I know my mind is slipping, but my heart will never forget you." Emily Wilson organized a small birthday celebration for him at Riverside Care Home. She brought Margaret, Marlene, Julian, and some staff members who had grown fond of the elderly man. "This is my family," Walter said, looking at everyone with pride. "My daughter found good people along the way." Margaret approached Walter and asked for forgiveness. "I didn't know you were suffering. If I had, I would have found a way for you to reunite sooner." "You took good care of my girl," he replied. "She became a wonderful person. Thank you for that." Mutual forgiveness brought peace to everyone involved. In the following months, Walter had moments of lucidity mixed with periods of confusion. But whenever he saw Emily, something in his eyes would light up. "Emily?" he'd sometimes call. "Yes, Dad, it's me." "You won't leave again, will you?" "Never again, Dad. Never again." Emily began working only part-time to dedicate more time to her father. She took him for walks in the care home's garden, read to him, and sang the songs he had sung to her when she was little. "How do you remember these songs?" he'd ask, amazed. "They've always been in my heart, Dad, even when I didn't know where they came from." Dr. Richard Miller observed Walter's progress with scientific interest. "Positive emotional stimulation is slowing the disease's progression," he explained to other doctors. "It's a unique case. Nancy, moved by the story's outcome, often remarked, "In 40 years of working here, I've never seen anything like it. It's as if love has healing powers." Emily and Walter's story spread through town and even reached the local newspapers. Many people sought out the support group they had formed, hoping for help in finding lost relatives. "You've given me hope," said one woman searching for a brother missing for 50 years. "If they reunited after so long, maybe I can find my son too," commented another. Volunteer work gave Emily's life new purpose. She realized her own pain had become a tool to help others. Walter, despite his illness, showed pride whenever he heard about his daughter's efforts. "You're doing what I couldn't," he'd say. "You're bringing families together. We're doing this together, Dad. You taught me never to give up on the people we love." When winter arrived, Walter began having more frequent moments of confusion. But now, there was something different. Even when he didn't remember who Emily was, he still felt at ease in her presence. "You have good energy," he'd say in those moments. "You remind me of someone very special." Emily learned to cherish every second of clarity, every smile, every tender word. One afternoon, as they flipped through a photo album together, Walter had a moment of complete lucidity. "Emily, my dear daughter, I want you to know something important." "What is it, Dad?" "All these years we spent apart weren't in vain. You became a wonderful person, a dedicated professional, a loving daughter. Maybe if we'd stayed together from the start, you wouldn't have become who you are today." "Don't say that, Dad. I often think about how different our lives could have been." "Different, yes, but not necessarily better. Margaret gave you love, education, opportunities. I was broken when you were taken. I couldn't have given you all that." Emily had never considered it from that angle. "Sometimes God has plans we don't understand," Walter continued. "Maybe you needed to go through all of this to become the person you are today and be able to help so many other families. Do you really believe that?" "I do. And I believe our reunion happened at the right time. Now I can leave knowing you're well and that our story had a happy ending." "Don't talk about leaving, Dad. It's the truth, my dear, but now it's a truth without bitterness. I'll leave in peace, knowing I was loved and that I managed to love in return." That conversation marked a shift in Emily Wilson's perspective. She stopped mourning the lost years and began cherishing the present even more. Spring brought new challenges. Walter Thompson started having trouble eating and communicating, but his eyes always lit up when Emily arrived. "Hi, Dad. How are you feeling today?" He could no longer answer with words, but he squeezed her hand affectionately. Emily spent hours by his bedside, telling stories about her work, the families she had helped reunite, and her plans for the future. "Did you know we've already helped 15 families find each other again?" she said. "It all started with our story." Walter's eyes shone with pride. Margaret Johnson visited often, bringing flowers and talking to Walter as if he were an old friend. "Thank you for giving the world such a special daughter," she said, holding his hand. Marlene Peterson and Julian also became constant presences, bringing joy and gratitude into the room. "You two are our inspiration," Julian said. "If it weren't for you, my mother and I would still be lost." Dr. Richard Miller discussed the extraordinary case with other professionals. "I've seen many Alzheimer's patients, but I've never seen someone maintain so many moments of emotional connection, even in advanced stages. Love truly works miracles." One December morning, Emily arrived to find Walter weaker than usual. He could barely open his eyes, but when he sensed her presence, he managed a faint smile. "Hi, Dad. I'm here." He moved his lips, trying to say something. Emily leaned in to listen. "I love you, daughter." "I love you too, Dad. More than words can say." Walter remained in that state for a few days, always showing signs of peace when Emily was near. On a sunny afternoon, as she read a book by his bed, Walter opened his eyes with surprising clarity. "Emily, my dear daughter, I'm here, Dad. Thank you for coming back to me. Thank you for forgiving me. Thank you for turning our pain into something beautiful. Thank you for never giving up on looking for me. Your love brought me back. Now I can rest. I know you'll keep helping others find their families. I promise, Dad, And always remember, you were the most important thing in my life. Every day I spent searching for you was worth it just to have these moments with you now." Walter closed his eyes with a serene smile. Emily held his hand and stayed there in silence, feeling her father's peaceful presence. He passed away that same afternoon, surrounded by the love of his reunited daughter. The funeral was simple but moving. Many people attended, those touched by Walter and Emily's story. Staff from Riverside Care Home, families they had helped reunite, and friends they'd made along the way. Emily read a letter she had written for her father. "Dad, thank you for teaching me that true love never gives up. Thank you for turning your pain into determination to find me. Thank you for forgiving me for the years we spent apart. I promise to carry on your legacy, helping other families reunite. Your love will live forever through the people we've brought together. Until we meet again, my dear father." After the ceremony, Margaret hugged Emily Wilson tightly. "He was right," she said. "You've become a wonderful person. I'm so proud to be your mother." "Mum, you'll always be my mother. Walter Thompson was my biological father, but you're the one who raised me with love. I'm lucky to have had two families who loved me." Marlene Peterson approached, moved. "Emily, what you and your father did changed my life. Through you, I found my son again. How can I ever thank you?" "By continuing to help others, that's the best way to show gratitude." Julian added, "You've proven it's never too late to right the wrongs of the past and build real connections." In the following months, Emily Wilson turned her pain into purpose. She expanded the support group and founded a non-profit dedicated to reuniting families separated by irregular adoptions. The work became her life's mission. Every reunited family was a tribute to Walter's memory and the power of love that had brought them together. One afternoon, while organizing documents at the non-profit's new headquarters, Emily found a letter Walter had dictated to Nancy Roberts weeks before passing. "My dear daughter Emily, if you're reading this, it means our journey in this life has ended, but our love remains eternal. I want you to know that the few months we spent together were the happiest of my life. You gave me the greatest gift a father could receive: forgiveness and the chance to know the incredible woman you've become. Don't cry for me, my child. Celebrate our story and keep spreading love in the world. Every family you help reunite will be an extension of our own reunion. Forever yours, your father who never gave up, Walter." Emily wept as she read the letter, but they were tears of gratitude. She had found not just a father, but a life's purpose. Years later, the organization she founded had reunited hundreds of families. Emily and Walter's story became a symbol of hope for those who had lost loved ones. At every reunion she witnessed, Emily felt her father's presence beside her, whispering, "Keep going, my daughter. Keep spreading love." And she did, honoring the memory of the man who never stopped searching for her, turning the pain of separation into the joy of reunion for countless families. The birthmark on her shoulder, once just a curious coincidence, became a symbol of her mission. Proof that true love always finds a way to reveal itself, even after decades apart. Margaret, now elderly, continued supporting her daughter's work. "You turned a past mistake into something beautiful," she often said. "I'm sure Walter is proud of you." "He is, Mom. I feel it every day." The end. And you, dear reader, what did you think of this touching journey of reunion? Have you experienced something similar or know someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments about the power of family love, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss other heartfelt stories like this one.